So what I learned was that the rose is prehistoric.
Hmm.
It's like dinosaur age. And so where the average flower will scald when brewed, the rose can endure the heat, right? And it's kind of like one of those Zen of tea, Zen of warrior parallels, or like the strength of the samurai, the strength of the warrior is measured by in how well he endures the heat of a battle,
Hmm.
right? And it parallels the tea. It's like the quality of your tea is measured by how well it handles the heat of the water, right? But the rose
Can handle it.
can handle the heat. Not many. I think the chrysanthemum
Yeah,
can
that's why
too,
it's also in tea.
right?
Yeah.
But other flowers, too hot, it will scald. Even chrysanthemum is still delicate. You'd want to start lighter,
Mhm.
right? And then work your way up to
The
boiling.
rose can take the angry heat.
Yeah. And so it's perfect for ripe pu'er because you need that angry boiling water to get the most. And you even want these dense clay, mineral rich pots to retain that heat.
Mhm.
You literally cook the tea. And so if there's a flower that can take it, for those of you joining us, we are drinking Big Snow Mountain, a Master Wong collection. Very, very tasty, delightful brew. It's actually, I didn't mention this, it's the tea that popped my cherry. I could say that, right? We're adults. Uh, before this, I was an oolong guy. I was into high mountain green teas. I really like those light aromatic flavors. But Master Wong, peace be upon him, he turned me on to pu'er. And I had tasted it before, but it was specifically this brick, that Big Snow Mountain, that turned me on. And then today we've added the rose, which I just told a brief story about. So,
Yeah, I think mine's similar. It's like I used to be really into the oolongs, the high mountain oolongs. Loved it, especially with cheesecake. um, and I can go on and on about the layers of that flavor with oolong, and I still enjoy it. But I something happened where I suddenly kind of shifted,
uh-huh.
and so did my wife, and now we prefer pu'er.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
It just kind of like something shifted in my
Okay.
taste and my brain. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, how about this? Before we get too far into it, and you just mentioned this we. Who the hell is we? This is
Steven
Steven,
Seto. Yeah.
Steven Seto.
Yeah.
And I am very, very privileged to be getting to know you now. This is only within the first handful of
Yeah.
times that we've ever really kicked it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the way that I know of Steven is through the Acupressure Institute. I got my bearings there 2004. Right, is when I started my journey there into the Tui Na with Brian O'Day and Michael Reed Goff, and Joseph Carter, and the like. And at first, they were doing all that Jin Shin stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed up. I almost dropped out. I was like, what is this stuff? And then fortunately, I ran into Brian O'Day and got to know the likes of Jim Donak, and then got to train with Jason Fry, Charles Strange, and always heard of you, but never got to meet you. And so you were a teacher there already when I was just a fledgling. And so to have you sit there,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
what were you teaching there back then?
I mean, I was a bit of a radical there,
Nice.
and there was a push at the time to teach Tai Chi form, and I was against it for a multitude of reasons. Virtually no one's actually going to remember the form. That's one. And while you're trying to remember all this choreography, you don't have any time to actually digest and embody those principles from that art into your acupuncture or your touch modalities like tuina.
Boom.
It doesn't happen.
Very well said.
Okay. In fact, from my observation, it never happened unless they had external training, not once. So for me, it was a proven failure.
Yeah.
And then the moment I recognize something like that, like if I know it consciously, I simply cannot continue along what I consider a lie. Right? I understand that these students are investing a lot of their money, sometimes loans, that they're going to have to pay back. I also know the brutal stats is that many of them are not going to be successful enough in their professional practice to actually pay back those loans. Like these are real adult conversations that I initiated. The administration didn't like me saying that, but I felt an allegiance to the students because they're investing their capital and their time in the school and in that class with me. So since I felt that in my heart, and these people are entrusting us, then I'm going to tell you as close as possible what's important. And so I would tell them is like, I'm going to teach you as directly as possible the techniques and the principles that matter in your practice. It's not the end all be all, but it's better to have a tapas or an appetizer or something than a buffet of nothing. Okay? Let's just keep it real.
It's better to have an appetizer of something than a buffet of nothing.
Yes. Right?
Wow.
Right? Like the number of excuses I heard so that way we would teach nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just painful. So, and I'm not getting you name names of people who said it because I'm not trying to blast anyone. I'm just saying that these are common myths or lies.
You can tell me when the camera's up.
Yeah. Common myths and lies are oftentimes taught at these schools. In traditional Chinese schools, it's like, we want to promote Chinese culture. I'm not against Chinese culture because I'm Chinese myself. When you are a professional practitioner of these healing modalities, and if you're successful, you're going to see people who have some pretty serious issues, health issues. Okay. They don't care what your culture is. Okay. If someone is going through a genuine mental, emotional, physical challenge that's significant, that's taken time away from their work, their family, and their well-being, and they're seeing you for help, they didn't pull out their thing to see, can you initiate them into Chinese culture? That never happened. They want to know, can you help me? Which is reasonable, right? If you were challenged, or I was challenged, right? You don't care about the culture. What you care about is,
does it work?
Can you help me?
Yeah.
And that's a human thing. It's like, I'm her. Do you understand this? Do you have the skill to help me? Right? That's a natural exchange. Okay. So this sounds really brutal, and I'm a little bit more heartfelt about it. But I back then I was austere, which is like, everything has to pay rent. Every technique, every word that we utter here has to pay rent. Does it actually help you improve your craft to support the well-being of the patients you're going to see in your practice?
This is why we get on.
Right? Does it pay rent? Right?
Shut up and show me. We're talking the same language.
Right? It has to pay rent. Because that's the question, whether it's conscious or unconscious, they're going through people in genuine need. And especially if they're compromised on multiple levels and financially, either you feel confident that you can deliver, if you're not, then you should tell them, I'm not sure I can help you. May you find the best help possible. I've done that multiple times out of integrity.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So it's risky unless I'm giving to you gratis. I'm not sure if this is my lane. I think maybe you have a better shot with someone else, especially if I feel your resources are compromised. Right? That's being kind. So may you find a rightful person or context to actually get your question, your issue met. Okay. So when I would actually ask people what they learned from their acupuncture teacher, their Tuina instructor, so what did you do? Why do you want to know? Because what I'm teaching you is going to be geared around what they taught you, so it's germane. That's why. Yeah. And the administration came and said, why do you have all these massage tables? I'm actually very qualified at massage. I just don't brag about it. I know how to do it. They're learning. So I'm trying to give them the download of how the Qigong Tai Chi principles apply to these techniques.
Yeah.
Here and now. Okay. Right. And so when people say, well, I don't have to wait years. No, we're going to do it today. Because we don't have time. It's like to waste. It's like, yes, you're not going to be a master today.
Yeah.
But you can learn a little bit of truth, like even a little nibble of a real appetizer is better than a buffet of nothing.
Yeah, I get it. Because of the 250-hour program, what, you get 10 hours of that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just considered extracurricular, if that. And so you don't have time to.
No, it's absolutely silly. And I can say this now because I've left for so many years. It's like when they pushed me to do the form, I just lied. I said, yeah, I'll teach it. But I didn't do that. I wasn't going. I had no intention of it. I just shined her off. Don't care. You don't know what it takes to actually train these students. You're not actually invested if they can't pay back their student loans.
That's so funny.
I'm actually an advocate for them, and they felt that. The students felt, I'm an advocate for you. And one of my first days, which was the ugly truth, is most people won't make it. Because that's what the stats show year in, year out. And you know why the most of you don't make it? I can tell you on a physical level, a lot of you can't hack it because like you don't actually have the foundation to handle this type of energy or this type of exertion to do the number of sessions that it takes to support yourself, much less do well to pay rent in the Bay Area. I'm going to name all those things that it takes. Right? If you feel fine with doing a mediocre job, you're not making enough money. You have to work something else unless you're independently wealthy. That's what happens. Am I wrong? Anyone? Did I say that? Did I make up something? No, I'm telling you what it is in the Bay Area. For you to make this sustainable, you have to charge decently. You have to have decent skills, and you have to work a good number of sessions. And in order to do that, your inner skill, your gung fu, which isn't wah, wah, okay, isn't just Bruce Lee. Your gung fu, which just means your real skill.
I take responsibility for that. When he said he was here, I said, "Enter the dragon."
Yeah.
So I planted that seed.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Yeah, it's like there's this thing. It's like, oh, gung fu means like Chinese martial arts, which I'm into, but it's about what real skill are you bringing? How do you develop that skill? Okay. So yeah, that was the initial journey, and that the students really took it in. They felt that it was doing them a real service because they could apply it right away. They knew it worked because I made them do it in front of me, and I told them when they were doing it, and I was brutally honest when they weren't. And I trained them to give each other honest feedback, not judgment. And the judgment is, that sucks. That's not helpful. It is what happened, what occurred. Because without that honesty, Without that ability to get honest assessment feedback, you can't grow. You can't develop your skill because you don't know when you're improving or deteriorating.
Yep.
Right. So you set up a culture where they know how to look and feel themselves. They know how to assess each other. They developed a relationship with trust because I demand they tell the truth or just be quiet, or you say you don't know, which is fine. All those things are fine. Everyone doesn't know at some point. So it's honorable when you don't know to say, I don't know. Or I'm not competent here. I need help. I need help plenty of times. There's many areas of life I'm incompetent at. But in areas I have a degree of skill and excellence, I try to impart with people. This is how you grow that skill. This is how you create trust and training partners. If you become a teacher, this is how you teach people. So that way you can grow that community of trust, which can only come from the ability to make clear, neutral, honest assessments. Right?
Objective. So I get along. So I know of you through Acupressure Institute. I also know of you through Soja. Shout out Peter.
Yeah,
over
Peter
at
Jemian.
Soja.
Yeah.
And but where did you train? That's the story that I don't know.
Wow. I trained with, I had a long martial arts thing, which first when I was a kid started with judo. And then I had a long break because my mom in particular was she was a World War II generation, so she was scared that I would be involved with bad people because she had an association that those people involved in martial arts were just not good people. That was
interesting.
Yeah, that was her belief structure. Maybe understandable given what she saw. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was born and raised in Sacramento. When I moved to the Bay Area back in '94, I started, cross training, but I was interested in, Chinese internal martial arts. So I became connected to the Kumar Francis lineage. And so that's where
opening the energy gates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And that was a very, very, it was something that I could just naturally grok for me. Like it just seemed to be a methodology. It's a primary methodology that I used.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got into a variety of touch modalities. Like I, got into massage school, quickly became an instructor there, especially around body mechanics.
Which school?
Alive and Well. I don't know if they're still around. I think that they may have closed and maybe they reopened. I'd have to check. But I was on that path of exploring so many different touch modalities besides deep tissue, craniosacral, acupressure, trigger point, right? Energetic systems, right? Lymphatic. And so I have a broad exposure to, I would say, the major touch modalities in the West, right? And just a little bit of Tuina that I can generally identify most people when they do it, like what systems they're representing. I certainly can feel it. Yeah, thank you. And at this time, I'm blending my practice because I was working on clients professionally, I was teaching, and I was doing a lot of martial arts, a lot of Qigong and Neigong practice. And I became really frustrated because my natural instinct was that I wasn't attached to a system or modality, certainly a culture, even though I respect my own culture. I was just interested in how do we have a map and way of conversing so we can evolve what we're doing for myself and just like whoever I'm talking to. And especially in martial arts, I'm sure you've experienced it. There's just so much fiefdoms and tribalism over like my style is better than yours, and even within the same style. And that certainly is true in healing modalities. And it just didn't make sense to me because like maybe I'm neurally divergent. I just found it to be a waste of time. So my life changed when someone had lent me a real life human skeleton. And this is well over 15 years ago. I'd have to check the dates, but it's over 15 years ago. And I was literally staring at it for hours. And a human skeleton, even though obviously it's dead, all the flesh is off, it feels different than plastic. Like for those who can feel energy, there is a vibe that comes from bone, even though it's dead, that's different than plastic. Okay. And so I'm just staring at it, meditating and feeling it for weeks.
I was just about to pull out my Halloween skeleton that I have that I use as a teaching tool just when you said that there's a difference between plastic and real.
Yeah.
So you had a real life skeleton.
Real bone.
Was there juju? Like
there was just energy. I don't want to get into
was it
like
haunted?
It didn't feel haunted. And I don't want to get into all types of weird esoterica, but and for people who don't believe it, it's fine. I don't care. I'm just saying my experience is that there's a vibe to it. There's an energy from real bone that's different than plastic. Okay.
A haunting different from plastic vibe.
Are you sure there's only puer? You're starting to sound a little drunk. Okay.
I had been drinking puer all day. I might be tea drunk. Yeah.
So, and this is the first time in my adult life where I got, well, this is really woo. I got a download like for like 10 minutes.
A haunting download.
It's like I just felt all this both energy and images and ideas just coming through. And a good friend of mine, he's still a good friend of mine, we're one of my long-term training partners. He was with me going, what's going on? He could tell like I was just like almost like wanting to burst at the seams.
Possessed.
And I told him, I said, I just figured it out. I just got this download of how to label and express motion in a super systematic and neutral way. I said, the key when I look at the skeleton as human beings on Earth, we cannot do physical work without our bones. And that's important because a cephalopod like a squid can. A cephalopod doesn't have bones. They are able to move and to do physical work with cartilage. A human being cannot do that. If we don't have our bones, I can't even pick up this teacup. That's significant.
I just had this image of blob.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's no bones to hold up our frame, you'd just be a blob.
Yeah, you're a blob. We don't have the the programming from nature to actually even do the simplest physical labor.
Yeah, because there'd be nothing to leverage
You
the
can't do it
muscles off of.
Yeah, we don't operate that way.
Yeah.
We our infrastructure is fundamentally different than a cephalopod. That's a crucial distinction that keeps the conversation about human movement on planet Earth vital. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, I understand this map as a human being on Earth. I've never been out in space, so I don't know how to teach movement out in space because I've never experienced that. I've only heard about it. Okay.
L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Shout out Xenu. All right, so
I noticed you're taking that in. It's like just feeling that.
Yeah.
And those who really get it, not just intellectually, but feel the reality of that, how if you're especially into some type of serious movement discipline or practice, that changes everything.
Well, just the conversation of human structure versus cephalopod put me in an experience. You probably saw me like look off into a distance and zone out. Like I could feel my muscles, connective tissues wrap and coil around my skeletal structure. Like, it brought me to that internal awareness.
Exactly. Great. And that is the beginning of a potent conversation that we can share. And I feel exchange information with far more constructive possibility, because we understand the boundaries, the fundamental boundaries of what's real about human motion. That neither one of them can say, I found out this way of moving that doesn't include the bones, and one of us has the power of veto. So I'm sorry, I like your tea, but that's bullshit. Right? It's like whatever stuff that you do, which you've come from your own lineage, right? Which has a lot of wonderful practices. But if you said, I can do that without my bones, I'm going to say, you got to show me, because all the evidence of human history indicates that's not true on Earth.
Well, this is interesting because there's always been challenges of, you think you have Kung Fu, do it without your hands. You think you have Kung Fu, do it without your feet. Now you think you have Kung Fu, do it without your fucking bones, bro. And
maybe there's some evolved human being with,
how about I just take the bones out of my hands so I can just
maybe someone has done some strange esoteric meditation where they can transmute their bones and they're still able to move. That's far beyond my pay grade. I've never witnessed it, right? I don't know.
Sim, Street Fighter.
Okay, maybe on that video game, right?
Cartoon video
game,
right?
Or maybe someone's exchanging with an alien, or they're mixing their DNA with theirs. And again, these are not phenomena I've ever seen. Okay. I'm simply reporting on my direct experience within my body, all the different practices I've been involved in, and all the people I've observed.
Well, let me take this in. Okay, so you started with judo, and that's good because my son's in judo. Right? He's 3 years old. He's already got a year in judo. And so good. Judo is good because it gets you familiar with the floor. That's a conversation of bones. Right? So great. So then from there, you got into BKF. And
well, I did some Wing Chun for a while.
Okay.
Right. And I took a bunch of different workshops, including JKD, boxing, Eskrima, and then I landed
with BK.
With BK, and then Eskrima again.
Oh, okay.
Sunny Umpad.
Okay. All right. All right. I did some Eskrima too. And apparently Danilo Santos is still making noise. He's doing Sistema now. But I wanted to talk about BK because what I know about him, it's funny. I know a lot of people that trained with him. I've never met him myself. But the story of BK is you may say he's an asshole, but you'll never say his Kung Fu's fake.
No. No.
Yeah. My buddy, shout out Jesse, he would tell me stories. He was a BK guy. He said that the way he learned, he never learned from him, but he trained in China with teachers that had worked with BK. And he said that the way he would do it is he'd just go to a school and challenge the master. And if he could beat you, he didn't want to learn from you. But if you beat him, he'd want to learn from you. And then that's how he found his teachers, was he just go and challenge them all. And so yeah, he's an asshole, but his Kung Fu's real.
Yeah, I mean, that is a different generation, and some people have like that in their nature, like that's their path, right? As a soul, the way that gets into a more esoteric conversation, that's in their infrastructure to learn and grow through that type of intense yang fire, right? This is not the only way, but is not wrong. It's like what that being wants to experience fundamentally, right? And life is full of mystery, variety, and contradictions, right? I'm really careful about landing any type of moral judgment on it. It's like, I didn't make this reality. I just try to earn enough credit to understand the laws of life so I can live well with whatever time that life grants me. That's all I'm interested in now. And I'm at the age where, as I have experienced loss, that the reality of my own mortality and things that I have learned and traveled, I'm wanting some of those things that I think that are legitimate to actually carry on, because it's actually, I feel strongly is going to benefit people, right? And when you're sincere about it, you feel, oh, if I were to die without doing my sincere best at transmitting certain things, something feels incomplete. It's like inside, when I meditate and feel myself, if I didn't make a sincere effort to do so, the feeling inside of me is like, that doesn't feel good. Like an organic emotion of regret starts appearing. It's an organic, non-GMO heirloom feeling, right? It's just like, yeah, regret starting.
What his feelings like tomatoes,
right? It's like, this feels like organic, non-GMO. Regret is growing. Why is that regret? Oh, because I haven't invested sincerely into a process that's part of life, that's natural, right? That's how life communicates through us, so the species, life can actually flourish and grow more, right? And I'm just a man. I'm just part of this soup of life. And the purpose of various skills, including a spiritual path, is to have enough awareness of how specific laws are operative, and your willingness to actually be in alignment with that for your own well-being. That's it. It's like, for your own constructive well-being, just like when we talk about the body, you should move in alignment with these structures. To not do so means that you're creating more resistance and less constructive possibility. That's very Taoist. It's like you want to go. Taoists are about like finding where to pave roads of life within yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit, your emotions, right? And how you navigate. When possible, can you use that in accordance with life and flow with it, so you invite the most constructive possibility? It doesn't mean you will get constructive outcome. It just means that you're rolling your dice in the most intelligent and wise way possible with what you're given. And the rest is up to life and grace to grant. And that's beyond my pay grade to actually decide. It's not up to me. It's just like, I've said to many people, there are infinite things that are guaranteed failures. And there's nothing that I know of that guarantees success. Absolutely nothing. That's not up to any one of us. That's a force, or life, all of life, God, as you would call it, to choose. Okay? We're just a part of this soup, this huge soup. And we get the privilege, while we're alive, to develop enough awareness and skill to hopefully create something that's worthwhile for ourselves and people we care about. Thank you.
I like the tea.
So good. It's now I'm feeling how the rose is really marrying with the pu'er now.
Yeah.
Like, it's much richer. And it comes to a point, but it's not sharp. It's going ding.
Yeah, I really enjoy playing with the ratios. Earlier, I had a client with a broken heart. And so here it's a lot of pu'er, one rosebud.
Right.
Earlier, I did a little pu'er, 3 rosebuds.
Right.
I went hard on the rose. And that was really, really nice.
Whew. Thank you.
All right. So let's talk about this project. Let's talk about what you want to share, how you want to present it, and how people can get it.
Well, this project that we're working on is to give people a felt sense of literacy of their skeletal structure in relation to massage therapy or touch therapy specifically. Okay. So I'll use verbal language as a metaphor.
Yeah.
Anyone who learned to speak their mother tongue did not learn grammar first. Right? What I'm saying is this true. In fact, if you started with grammar first, that was child abuse. Like talking to a baby. This is how you diagram a sentence. What are you talking about? No, that doesn't exist. You learn to speak your mother language by probably other adults kind of validating through their gesticulation and them talking to you, and you getting a sense of, oh, this word means this. And eventually you picked up a few words and you developed a few truncated sentences to more complicated sentences. And then you're off to the races depending on what your language needs were. Okay. So the same is true with how I've designed how to teach this, which is like, I've learned how to use physical contact, having them touch their body, having other people touch their bodies in certain contexts. So they can feel, just by feel, what feels right. And then have them apply it to a massage move that they most commonly use and go, does this feel more integrated, more in flow? That's all they need to know. And then they just need to keep practicing until it becomes natural. And they don't need to know the grammar initially. I just want them to be in the flow of it, getting the contact, getting used to making contact on themselves. And if these are massage therapists, hopefully they're comfortable touching other people because that's the nature of the profession. But then we're going to dial up the conscious level of contact between professionals for the sake of body literacy. Okay. Because my ultimate goal is to transmit this in a way where people also understand the grammar and can teach it.
Okay.
I want to do that for my own selfish reasons. I'm transparent because I literally want to push this out of my space and not have it on my plate. I want other people to take it over. I don't want to do it anymore. Okay. So what's in my head and in my body, I'm trying to transmit it to all the rightful people. Run with it. My career as a massage therapist or touch therapist is done. I don't see myself ever going back unless there's something strange. It doesn't seem likely. So, yeah, once those people get a certain degree of literacy, then I'm going to push them to understand grammar. And that requires a different headspace.
Got it. So by literacy, is that going to translate to quality of touch, posture,
all of it,
mechanics?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of that. All of that. Right. And then, so once they have a certain degree of literacy, most people with that literacy will just be able to create some of the basics pretty well just by feel. As positions or situations get more complicated, grammar matters. And that's true with every discipline of life, right? The beginning to intermediate is like a lot of people can do it just with the basics, and that's great. So a lot of people can participate. As you go up that tree of knowledge plus genuine understanding, and the problems become more nuanced, or the demand of how much skill you need to bring because the problem is that hard, demands that much more of your understanding.
Got it. Okay. What's the nature of the instruction? Is it going to be one-on-one, one-on-many, small group?
We're going to start with a small group.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that core group, it may grow into a larger one where they start teaching other people, and I'm watching them teach.
Okay.
Right. It's like, once they get some literacy and they have confidence and the community trusts each other, that they can get good feedback.
Got it.
Right?
And I'd imagine
then it grows.
I'd imagine it's primarily partnered exercises.
Yeah.
For the contact element.
You have to.
Yeah.
This is something that unless something really happens with a blend of robotics and humans, AI is not taking over this discipline for the foreseeable future, because it demands physical contact from a human.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
And then are we going to need, pardon my question, but are we going to need like yoga mats, tables, bolsters, anything like that?
Tables, yes. Enough tables depending on how many people participate.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a couple tables here.
Yeah.
I have about 3 tables.
Yeah.
And then does this work translate to floor or chair?
Yeah. It can work. That's more advanced.
That's more of a grammar conversation, right?
Yeah, that's more advanced because it then requires that you translate the easiest posture to understand this modality is usually standing vertical. Okay. The moment you start getting into wrapped positions or on the floor, that's a little bit more, get definitely intermediate up to advanced. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. And so I'm assuming that all of these methods, though presented in a framework of body work, can also translate to martial application as well.
It can apply to many different disciplines. Like I would say virtually every
chopping vegetables.
Yeah. Like when I was doing a lot of privates, I would just, and I knew that they weren't trying to be into martial arts or body work. And I said, everything has to pay rent. I'd just say, what are you trying to do? I'm willing to teach you anything, but I need to know, what do you use your body mainly for? What are your issues? Okay. For what you're trying to do and what your challenges are, these are the things from my bag of principles and processes are most germane to you, that I consider vital that you understand so you don't recreate that problem. An interesting story, I had a client who only saw me for several sessions in group, and he was out in the winter snow, and his kneecap was very unstable. And he remembered what I taught him, which is that he learned as he was cross-country skiing to keep his awareness right through the center of his bones, to the center of his kneecap, so that way he could make it back. He went really slow, but he just said, okay, I remember what Steve said, which is keep all the force through the center of the bones as I move. And he was able to get to safety just doing that accurately and not causing more damage. So, wow, I never thought of it. I don't know how to cross-country ski myself. It's not something I'm interested in learning currently. But I'm glad that what I showed him, he understood and was able to apply it in a potentially very dangerous situation, right? So that's awesome. And people have shown me in their things where I don't have any skill doing that craft, but I just watch them and say, you're trying to do this. Well, using this map, this is how you can make that much easier, more sustainable. And if you're competitive, this is the part they understand that gives you a competitive advantage. And then the tactics in your sport, that's not my thing because I don't know it. You talk to your coach.
Yep. So you're presenting it in the framework of bodywork. However, this is just the human experience because we need bones to live and move and be.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is just how you operate in life with bones.
One of the best experiences was teaching a grandmother who was just worried about her mobility. And she said that with whatever time remaining with my life, I want to be able to hold and hug my grandchildren. And I could feel her sincerity. No ego. Wasn't trying to be special, wasn't trying to do anything. It's actually special to connect with someone you love, but I'm saying special in the sense of like some external achievement that the news would be interested in. This is an everyday person who has come to realize that what matters to her is her connection to her grandkids. And she wants to experience that in a way where she can really savor that experience. So when I showed her the body map, it gave her the means to do it without strain, prolonged her capacity to continue enjoying that experience to the degree that life will allow. Right. And I was just a part of that conversation to give her a piece of that puzzle that supported that experience.
Yeah. There you go, Grandma. Dope, dude. Yeah, I could see that being a big benefit to especially elderly who have such a fear of falling and have such brittle bones, osteoarthritic females. Big deal. And even athletes that have funky joints and replacements and such.
Yeah, once they understand the map, the people who are part of the PT community or wanted to take it that route, there's a lot there. If there were certain high level athletes that understood this map, given their already incredible athletic ability, it would be scary. Like, for example, I mean, he's at the end of his career, but like a LeBron James, right? He does a lot of the map just from his intuition, and he has a lot of good training. But if I were to connect with him and work with him not that long, and he understood it, someone like him could really take it very far because they already have a lot of body intelligence, and it would just give them a granular look at things that kind of escape their awareness and give them a significant competitive advantage to other people wouldn't understand.
Well, interesting you say that, because my Kung Fu brother Sheldon, who does also does Tai Chi, Qigong, energetic work, and uses a lot of the same language that we've used too. He just last week was flown out by the Utah Jazz to teach them Qigong. And he showed them spinal alignment and how a vertical power, which I think you talked about as the gravity of heaven, or can give great power potential. And if you're able to access that as just a regular state being, then so much is available. And he was able to demonstrate that, have them feel it and experience it, to where then they were then doing it on each other. And so yes, let's watch the Utah Jazz.
Exactly. And I'm simply saying, it's like, I have a lot in there where various people who want to take it into different directions, depending on their inclination, could say, oh, I want to learn this map and apply it to this area where I have a natural passion for, right? And help this community develop themselves. Right. Great.
Okay. So an ideal candidate already has experience in body work, maybe already has a table. Ideal candidate maybe it has movement practice or martial practice. That'd be extra credit, be nice, not necessary.
And wants to teach.
Okay. So then we're probably looking at professionals then, right?
Wants to teach, because this is something that I really feel is unique.
Got it.
Right.
And then what's the progression? So if I recall, there was gravity of heaven, gravity of earth, and then a type of exchange, right?
Well, the first one is the first principle is what I call it the vertical line, which is like the feeling force right through the center of your spine. And as that goes through the exact center of your hips, through the center of your knees, down to through your tibia and fibular bones to your heels, right? And aligning to that force. So there's the least amount of leakage outside of the center of those bones if possible.
Oh, that's
vertical line. That's vertical line. Second principle would be grounding, which is how do you deal with the force of gravity. And you do that by learning how to release as much tension from the lower body. I define in my map as everything from the belly button downwards. So that gives a point of geography. Everything from there downwards wants to just drain and release, continuing to release like flushing a toilet while maintaining your vertical line.
So within the first 2 sessions, you're essentially giving people the essence of Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Okay.
From a very neutral language that's undeniable. It's like no one denies you have bones. And I'm saying for your skeleton, that's where you're using the least amount of force.
So we translate that as harmony of heaven and earth.
Yeah.
Right. So then after that, now it's how do you receive horizontal? Right?
Well, the horizontal force would be how you test your grounding, because if I'm receiving horizontal force, especially to my hips, people have a tendency either to push back with resistance or they collapse. Some form of that or mixture. That's the common pattern. So it's some form of what I call reactivity. The system's reacting to this horizontal force. What we're trying to develop is the capacity to receive that force and have that force conducted through the center of your bones towards the earth and just release downwards first. And that usually is a training of the combination of like your mind, which usually, if you don't have good training, wants to fight or it wants to run. Okay.
So is that a neutralization of sorts?
Yeah. That's a neutralization and just like finding your equilibrium by saying, oh, can I receive this? So I am now not focused on them. I'm focused on, can I be in relationship with gravity more?
So then what's third principle then?
The gravity from above you, which is how does everything above the belly button, when they talk about in Tai Chi, a string of pearls uplifting you, if I'm tractioning the head in connection with the whole skeletal structure, how does that happen in a way where I can feel this length and also this natural magnetic pull from above, which is subtler, which is good, because if it wasn't, we'd be up in space, right? That's a problem. Gravity from below has to be stronger so we don't die, okay? So everyone can feel gravity below them. And then once you have that stabilized, then you want to include the gravitational pull from above, which people sometimes challenge. And I just come back and say, look, the tides of the oceans are what? Guided by the relative proximity of the moon. Because as it gets closer, there's more gravitational pull, which affects the oceans. And so your body's made up mostly of water. I've had some people tell me like they're not affected by it. Since the oceans are affected by it, you are too. You just can't feel it.
You lunatic.
Okay, so I don't even entertain that. It's like, I believe you that you don't feel it. I disagree that you're not impacted by it. Okay,
Don't slap.
It's different. Okay, and the purpose of the practice is to develop enough receptivity and listening.
Wow.
Where you can feel a force that is impacting you
Uh-huh.
and is affecting you, so you can work with it.
I want to thank you for that languaging, because I'm a Taoist.
Yeah.
And Taoists have top knots. And those top knots are tied in a very special and unique way to mimic that of the yolk from a water buffalo. Because that's God pulling you up.
Yeah.
And so, we all have that language of the string, right? But thank you for actually framing it as the gravitational pull of the moon as such on the tides.
And to add on that, what you talk about the top knot, for principle 3, which is sky, gravity from above. I have a detailed, and this is not an easy technique. It takes a transmission. It's not easy, especially at an advanced level, to traction the head while someone's standing, so they can feel that line. That takes a degree of embodied skill where your body's that stable, you can feel the lift, and your hands aren't tense while you do it.
Yeah.
To make that, you see, there's a lot of things that have to happen.
Because then your attention will then translate.
Exactly.
To them. Yeah.
So I usually take stillness, like you're doing standing, and you just be still with it, and then you just feel the lift within yourself and transmit that slowly.
Wow.
And then at the advanced levels, like I have them lay back on me, I catch them and then lift them. But that takes a lot of skill. That's not something that you can teach right away. Okay. But I'm determined to transmit to as many people who are really available. I'm gonna really show you how to do it well.
Just by you saying, like, I get it, my curiosity would be the cradle points.
Okay, it's here at the ears, and you have to slowly. You want me to do it on you? Really quick?
Hell yeah, on camera. Yeah, do that shit.
So we're going ahead. We're not doing vertical line, but it's like from here, right? My hands are in this position, and I'm softening the palms and my fingers, and then I'm putting intent at the back of my hands, so you feel that structure. And I am encouraging lightness where I have a healing balloon pulling my spine. And I'm not doing this. See, that doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
I'm simply keeping the connection and transmitting to you. Yeah, see?
That there's room to move up.
There's an invitation. I'm saying, can you feel that? And I'm just saying, feel that relationship. And I'm just putting enough to encourage that container and relationship.
I get it.
Right? It's a balance point, so that way I'm helping you have your relationship with that force. I'm just there as kind of like the intermediary to help facilitate that exchange.
Yeah. I can articulate what just happened as like the journey up is dark, and so you kind of just gave a flashlight and gave me the room to go there myself. And at the same time kind of restricted all other avenues, so I kind of have to go there. But you're not pulling or forcing. There's an invitation for me to go there myself.
And simultaneously, I'm discouraging false paths.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're going to an angle that actually is not supportive to you, right? I'm saying you shouldn't do that.
I just learned something.
Right? You shouldn't do that. Now, you can force it. You can say, I refuse to listen. I'm going to go there anyways, right? Or kink myself, which is your agency, right? You're a free being. You can do what you want, but I'm not encouraging that, right? So in the healing craft, where possible, we're trying to use our skills to encourage the maximum rightful possibilities for the people we're in contact with, right? That's the way I'm, framing it. And if there's a better way, I usually try to change it and adjust to evolve with what I understand.
Yeah.
But that's currently how I would describe it. And with the techniques that I'm applying, in this case, the physical, I try to embody it by living that way myself. So I'm doing it as if someone's behind me doing it. I'm feeling it. And my hands is just a bridge to communicate the experience that I have lived, because I've lived it for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I've received it well and also not well. So I know the difference. And I'm trying to communicate with you the best that I'm aware of what's possible. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it looks simple, but there's a lot to it. Oh God, I love the sound of that going in there. It's like,
if I really cared about my tea kung fu, which I do, of course, but what I got turned on to about tea game is pouring the tea into the decanter is likened to an Olympic dive.
Ooh, wow.
Right. And so what you're calling out is actually my bad kung fu. It's like, oh, I love that terrible kung fu that you're displaying right now. You know, because it should be. And that's how you gauge your pot. Yeah. And then if your pot has a pour, your skill in how well you can still manage the flow.
Yeah. I'm learning something. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's pitch. That's right.
And what you're describing also applies to the body, right? It's like, how do we find that?
Yeah, because then there's also the ratio of air exhaust to you know pour out, and that's going to affect the quality of the pour and how the fluid lands.
Yeah.
And it's big kung fu.
Yeah.
And so I often, because I want to pay more attention to you. That's my lazy way to he's calling out my oh, that sound. It's my favorite sound of your bad kung fu.
I'm enjoying the experience because it's like he's wonderful. And I'm a beginner at pu'er. So, you know what? It's like something I try to live too, which is knowing your lane.
Yeah.
Right. Which is not having false humility and saying, oh, I'm not that good at it, when like certain things, there are not too many people better than me at certain things. So it's just false to say that. And in this day and age, it's actually destructive. Right. We live in an age where right now, through social media and these platforms, people who are ignorant, who have actually bad intent, right, have large followings and are actually teaching people wrongfully. The art's damaging. This is happening, and anybody who can just observe quickly knows this is true. So it's vital for everyone who has genuine skill in anything, and I mean anything, to actually show up if that's your calling, and to actually say, I understand this to this degree, and I'm willing to share it. Right? And the flip side of that is to also recognize when you don't know what you're talking about. And so I've lived this way of telling people very directly, because there are people who have a lot of respect for me for things that I'm very good at, who project upon me some degree of skill on something else that I don't have at all. And I show, stop. That thing I showed you do, which I have skill, which I do, you should assume that I know a lot about this other thing, because I don't. I'm actually incompetent, or I'm a beginner. Okay. And that's maintaining your own honesty with yourself and encouraging other people to keep themselves clean in their journey as well.
I love it. Well, we have a call out to professional body workers, martial artists, movers, dancers, people with a heart that want to touch and heal professionally, and also have an interest in sharing and transmitting further beyond themselves. So, and then this is going to be taught in a series of 3 courses, principle based. And after those 3, do we translate that to touch right away, or is that like a primer to
you touch from the beginning?
Okay. And then, so then will there be like a distinction between prone, supine, sideline, or just contact period?
Contact period, find positions you're most comfortable with and work there.
Okay.
Whatever are the positions that the moves that you do in your movement practice to your contact practice that you do the most, that's where we're going to begin.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because that gives you the best chance of embodying these principles, because this is your bread and butter.
So that sounds very tailored. And so this is really going to be relative to who shows up.
Yeah. The basic exercises I show for the principles will be the same.
Yeah.
How they are executed for that move will have some differences. Yeah.
So we're learning the gist of the language with those three. From there, it's a matter of the grammar, as you would say, right? Okay. And then your goal is from these three, that initial cohort would then be able to coach or guide progressive cohorts.
For those principles.
For those specific.
Because that's the big three.
Yeah.
That's the big three that everyone begins, and then that allows you to go into the rest of the body, which has its own protocols depending on what you need, right? That gives you more alphabet, more vocabulary.
Got it.
Right? And like anything in life is, some people says, I'm satisfied with just grammar school. Somebody says, well, I need at least a high school diploma. I need college degree, or I need graduate and postgraduate. It depends on your needs. If you're going to teach this stuff to people who are advanced, you're going to need a lot of grammar. Okay.
Okay. Matt, how can people find you?
You can email me. I got a new email address just specifically for this.
Nice.
My wife set this up. Steven@livingbodywisdom.com.
Okay. All right.
And
is that going to be the domain, Living Body Wisdom?
Yep. And I'm also have an Instagram page and a YouTube channel. And yeah, I'm going to be giving out a lot of free content, like things that everyday people can use just to get the brand out there of Living Body Wisdom.
And get yourself a little Osmo, DJI Osmo.
Yeah, so it's like I'm going to be pouring out everything that I know about this, among other things, right? Because this goes into so many different realms and possibilities.
Nice. I'm excited, and I also must say I'm flattered that I look up to you as an elder. Again, you were a teacher when I started. You're polite and generous and consider me a peer. However, you are a generation above me, and so that you choose me to support your mission, I'm flattered and honored, and it's my absolute joy to be of service.
Thank you.
Okay, interview.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.